Hi, it's Ashka from our Mystical universe. Today is going to be an extension of my last session that spoke about my beautiful guide, wonderful guide, LaSoon. I just want to recap and then I want to go over how you can connect to your spiritual guide. Everybody has one, everybody. Um, it's just whether we choose to believe. You don't have to believe. You can connect to your faith your own way. Your faith can be spiritual, your faith can be religious. I would love to have a session where we're live, but I have to get a lot more followers to go live, where we could discuss this aspect of this wonderful planet we live on and the opportunities we have for growth. Not only spiritual growth, but growth, individual growth of who you are inside. This is something we try to bring out in our students at Elite Mixed Martial Arts Center to help them be the best they can be, to help them realize the determination, the things that are within them that they can use to help them through their life. Recap your four bodies. Your four bodies are a means of you melding your four bodies together to connect to the spiritual guide. This is really important and it's very easy to do. So, what are they? Physical, emotional, mental, spiritual. Now, remember, this is different aspects of you. Someday, just sit down and think about it. A physical body is the easiest. It's what we take care of ourselves. It's the vessel we live in. Emotional. Oh God, do I live off my emotions? Do I cry some days? And I've realized what an emotional being I am because of when my husband passed, and then trying to regroup the school and trying to make the school expand and Elite Mixed Martial Arts Center, and to make it on its own. And we're now an LLC, we're incorporated. So there's a lot going on. So anyway, let's continue. Your mental. Mental is where you try to analytically figure things out. You want to work from all those bodies. Now remember, you do have, I hate the word ESP, I mean extrasensory perception. I just think there's a better word for it. And the only word I can come up with, it's the interconnection that you have with things that aren't physical around you. I'm just going to try to come up. I'll think of an example and I'll go over it with you. So now the next aspect is your six senses. Everyone has a strength and they have a weakness in the six senses. And the six senses are how you connect to the sixth sense, which is the ESP. So you connecting to the ESP, helps you connect to the spiritual, to connect to your guides. So what are they? This time I wrote them down so I would forget one. Sight, hearing, taste, touch, smell, and then your ESP, which should be the first one. Now, with touch, I just want you to understand, touch is also, you will feel, when we would do ghost hunts, I would feel ghosts touch my hands, touch my shoulder, put their fingers through my hair. But you also have, it's feel. You have an inner feeling where you get perception inside, where you can see images. We were on a ghost hunt at the Indian Cultural Museum. And I remember everybody was gone. I couldn't find the turn. Of course, I'm supposed to be sensitive, and I couldn't find the turn to get into the parking lot of the Indian Cultural Center. And it's on Fish Hatchery Road. So anyway, I went there on a Friday. Cars everywhere. That's all I heard was cars. And the woman who was running it asked me if I could just do a walkthrough. So my daughter and I were there, and my daughter was taping, getting EVPs. And I remember I had a vision in my head. So after we had done my daughter and I are talking, and I said to my daughter, do you think it's the land that is that has spirits, or is it the house? So anyway, when my daughter went back to listen to the EVPs, all we heard was the White House. It's not the White House. I said, okay. So I had done a session where I picture myself going back to the Indian Culture Museum, and I picture myself walking around. And in this image, I saw a white house. It was not stone and siding. I saw a white house. I saw what it looked like 100 years ago. So when we went back to the reveal to talk to the woman who runs the Indian Museum, I said to her, it's a white house. They had smokers out back where they would smoke meat. There was an outhouse. There were clotheslines, and there was a push, some kind of mower. And what they would do, the yard was so big that they would push the mower where the clotheslines were, where the cooker was. And I explained this to her. Well, she had invited people to the reveal with this paranormal group my son and I were part of. And here this woman brought it. She said, I have a picture of 100 years old of what this place looked like. And it was from the backyard. She turned it over, and there it was, a white house. It was a white house. And there was the smokers. There were 3 smokers. I think it was 2 or 3. There was an outhouse. There were clotheslines. There was even one of those push mowers that was laying on the side of the yard. So that's what your ESP is. Now, let me explain to you. You have strengths and weaknesses. I cannot hear spirits talk to me. My son can. I hear LaSoon, but nobody else. I get pictures in my head. So that's the sight part. The hear part I don't have. If they're like my mother, when my mother passed away, she came to me and I smelled her perfume. So I have a strong sense of smell. When my father-in-law passed away, I smelled his cologne. So anyway, I'm taking too much time. But if you ever want to go over this, please call me. Just send me a message. I would be more than happy to go over these points with you. So now let's talk about how to bring in your spiritual guide. I'm going to show you this. Everyone has to have a journal. This is one of the journals. I have several journals I work on. One is when I read, I make notes. And this is my journal. I make notes on every page. I discuss different things. I do not talk about anything negative. I want this to be a knowledge, a lesson for you to learn. So anyway, this is just an idea. And so everyone should have a journal and journal. If you are outside and a bug, a flower takes your attention away from a moment you're having, that's a message from your guide. And I know I'm repeating myself, but I'll tell you the same message I had when I thought I had breast cancer in the right breast, and I went and had testing done. And they said, don't worry, we'll get right back to you whether or not we have to have surgery. So I walked out back, and I love my backyard. It always needs work, but I love my backyard. And when I walked out and I looked up, here was a beautiful rainbow. First time I've ever seen a rainbow in my backyard. Now, you have to understand, I was diagnosed 2010 with breast cancer. So this had to be around 2012, 2013 that I saw this rainbow. And then I looked at the back of my house, and here was a lone thistle. A thistle is like a bristly little thing that was purple, and they come from Scotland. They're very hardy. They're made for really tough weather. And there was one just back against my house. And the way I'm on a cement slab, so there's nothing on the back of my house. I can't have bushes around the back. So anyway, I'm getting too verbose here. So anyway, I looked up what thistle means. Thistle means there's going to be a medical issue. If there's many thistles, it's major. If there's few, it's considered minor. It's going to be fine, and that's exactly what happened. So here I was getting a message from my spiritual guide. Your guides are there. They don't give you answers, and sometimes I'll say they'll answer my questions. They guide you in your questions. There's never an answer. So anyway, now let's get back to how we bring everything together. When you have a situation arise, how do you work out how you're going to handle it? Me is writing. I write. I type. And I ask a question before I start typing anything. And I will get guidance. If you like to take walks, ask a question. Take a walk. I'm telling you, we'll have clarity when you're done. My son likes to golf. He does martial arts. You ask a question and you will have some type of guidance when you're finished. So that's the first way to connect to your guide. Talk to your guide. I talk to LaSoon all the time, and this was before I even really got to know him. I would just talk to him like he's a person in a room. So the other thing is, if something is brought to your attention, write it in your journal. I became obsessed with the astronauts. Don't know why. So all of a sudden, I started looking up information regarding the astronauts. And I found information about Edgar Mitchell. His books are unbelievable. This is the one LaSoon has brought. He put it in my queue. It was in my queue, this book. This is what I'm working on now. And this is on, it's about the material world and the mystical world. Well, that's your earth-based, where we're at, and the spirituality that's within us. And he talks about it. Oh my God, this book, I've had to have a dictionary at hand sometimes because he uses words I've never heard of before. So, journal. Remember, nothing negative. Date. I am a moon-based person, so I always check that day what where the moon is at in position around us. If it's balsamic, if it's full moon, new moon, and I write it down because that is very important. And if anyone wants me to go over a session with the phases of the moon, I'd be happy to do it. Please just post. Please do a thumbs up. I want to build this channel, and I apologize. There's been such a gap. But I have been on a mission with LaSoon reading and studying, and there's so much I'm trying to do. But anyway, the second part is your challenge. What has been my challenge recently? I have neuropathy. And I have neuropathy from the chemo I went through. And usually they say the neuropathy leaves after a certain length of time. Well, mine's getting continually worse. And I can't feel the bottom of my feet. I'm afraid to walk. I'm afraid to go to our school. That I'm going to have use my walker. I mean, when I go out to the doctors, I use a walker because I can't feel my feet. The other thing is I have nerve pain. Nerve pain is severe. Now, when I meditate, I do feel better. When I take I take a lot of supplements. I feel better. I'm sorry I feel droopy today. I apologize. But what I want you to do, I want you to, if you have a situation occur, what you do is, how do you handle that situation? If you have a problem with your kids, do you jump and yell? What would yelling be? You're being emotional. You're just jumping to the point. Are you using the mental aspect of who you are? If you can handle it with calmness, with thinking out how you're going to deal with it. Now, I know sometimes we don't have time. We have to fly off the cuff to do things with kids. But you're going to get better at it. And this helps you connect to your spiritual guide. All you have to do is talk to him. All you have to do is ask for guidance when you need it. Anything that you do, and I hope I stressed this the last time we spoke, any time you have something to do that's fun, even spending time with your family, taking them to a fair, taking a walk, gardening, you can connect to your spiritual guide. Just ask a question, ask for guidance. That helps it open up. And opening up is also you bringing his energy in or her energy in. And I've already talked about that. If someone wants to know if they're working with their higher self or their sacred self, I can help you with that. All we have to do is talk. We can go on the phone and talk. Sometimes I think people are uncomfortable and they're afraid to connect to this, and I can understand that. But just walk through it. It's going to be one of the best decisions you've ever made. So I went over the 4 bodies. I went over the six senses, and how your senses, you have strength and weaknesses in your senses, and how you can use your strengths to help you. Like I said, when I was writing my children's book, I'm working on a book for Atlantis now. I see the book in my head, and I write from what I'm seeing. LaSoon brings me the words. That's all I can tell you. And there are other ways that I connect to LaSoon. Like I said, sometimes I'll go in and there's a book in queue in Amazon that I didn't put there. And I know my kids did. So I buy it and I read it. And that's what I'm in the midst of doing now, is reading this book. This book by Edgar Mitchell is unbelievable. It's so insightful. And he was such an intelligent man that I have found myself going into YouTube, watching his documentaries. So this is Ashka from our Mystical Connection. I'm sorry, I did it again. Our Mystical Universe. I have on my Facebook, I have Ashka's Connection. And that's where I try to post things. And if anyone has questions, they can ask me, and I try to answer through there. Also, we have the email that you can email me. You can post on this YouTube channel. And please thumbs up. And please, if you can, pass it around to see if people... And then you can make suggestions. Post suggestions that you would like to hear. So anyway, I know I've gone a little long. So I'm so glad you're with me. Like I said, it's... Tuesday, oh my God, the 13th of August. My daughter is flying to Hawaii now. I'm so happy for her. Hawaii is a mystical place. And if you ever want me to talk about the Hawaiian mysticism, it is incredible to learn about it. And I would love to talk to someone about it. So I hope you have a good week. And please, like I said, thumbs up, and I will speak to you soon. Bye-bye. Okay, we're not off. There we go. No.